communities play an important role in the sustainable development and transformation of Africa. In this program, Julie Gichuru sits with Dr. Stergomena Tax, the Executive Secretary of the Southern African Development Community. They discuss the role that SADC plays in promoting integration and therefore sustainable development in the region.
Thank you so much, Dr. Tax, for making time to speak to us. It's been nearly 15 years of the Southern African Development Community now, and let's start right at the beginning. Why was it established?
Thank you very much as well for getting an opportunity to come and interview SADC. Let me begin by saying what is SADC. SADC is an intergovernmental organization which was created to drive regional integration, but also socio-economic and political cooperation. So it has a history. We started, first it consists of 15 member states, as you're aware. SADC started as Coordination Alliance, and that was in 1980. The establishment took place in Zambia. And the purpose for the Coordination Alliance was to coordinate development projects in order to lessen economic hardship and the dependence on the then apartheid South Africa. That was in 1980. But as we were liberated, or the member states were liberated, then SADC thought it was important now to change the SADC. By then it was SADC with double C at the end, and to make it more of a legal entity and the focus on the new development but requirement of that day. And that's when SADC was established. That was in 1992, and the focus now was placed on driving regional integration, and also in both fields, socio-economic but also political and the security cooperation. That is SADC.
Thank you. Now, a lot of people will hear SADC and think, well, it sounds interesting, but what does it really mean? In terms of the mission, what is the mission of this?
The first and foremost is to make sure that is the promotion of equitable and sustainable growth and development, but also is to make sure that when you do that, you don't just look at the economic front, but also you look at the political front. It's also to make sure that our region is politically stable, but it's also peaceful.
Very important, and we know there are parts of the continent still really suffering. Aside from the economic benefits of a regional bloc, the peace and stability issues still need to be dealt with in many places. Let's talk about how it's been organized as a regional bloc. You've taken us through some of all the member states. How does it work?
Let us look at that from two dimensions, from as a legal entity, but also as a region which is expected to drive economic benefits to the citizen. From the legal point of view, we are organized, the apex body is the summit, which consists of all heads of states and government, and that is the apex body in terms of decision making, but also providing the strategic direction of SADC. But given the history I have given, peace and security and political stability is very, very key. And I'm proud to say that we are among the regions in the continent, the most stable region in the continent. We have, recognizing that again, we have another organ, which is called Organ on Politics, Defense and Security, which meets and provides strategic direction or address security and peace, security challenges, if any, and report to the overall summit. The organ comprises of Troika members, so it is rotational. So you have three, the incoming chair, the current chair, incoming chair, outgoing chair, just to focus on politics, peace, and security. But below, immediately after the summit, you have a Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers plays an interface between member states, the secretariat, but also the summit. Also, basically, it's also a policy body. We have sectoral ministerial committee, receives reports from a ministerial committee. The ministerial committees deals with technical sectoral issues. And then we look now from a holistic point of view, the council is the one which provides sectoral guidance. provide the overall policy guidance. Then you have the Secretariat, which I head, and our major role is to coordinate the implementation, but also to monitor the implementation of SADC regional integration. I'm emphasizing this because that is from the legal point of view, the way we are. I'm emphasizing that we coordinate because the other dimension which I'm bringing in is the importance of private sector. Private sector is expected to be the driver of regional integration. So the private sector, they also take part in SADC business, because we cannot develop any policy without involving the private sector. We cannot develop any strategy without the involvement of private sector, because we want to understand if they are to drive regional integration, what are the issues which we must make sure that are part and parcel of our regional programs. And then the implementation of regional integration is not done by the Secretariat, it's done by member states. And when you talk of member state, it's not also expected to be done by governments. Governments are expected to make sure that the enabling environment is there, in terms of policies, in terms of making sure that you reduce cost of doing business, because you want the private sector to utilize the created trade investment opportunities. But the government also should make sure that they put in place the needed infrastructure, both hard and soft infrastructure, and the private sector now utilizes the opportunities in terms of driving the real integration agenda.
That's a fascinating perspective, because in many blocks, that's the challenge and the disconnect, that our economies are driven by private sector, but they often don't have a seat at the table. Let's talk about how SADC relates with other regional economic communities.
We relate with other regional communities in many dimensions. First of all, we are part of the African Union. So whatever we do, we must make sure that it's aligned to the continental integration agenda. We have just developed an industrialization strategy, and our strategy is basically aims at social transformation, socio-economic transformation and technological transformation of our economies. It is 2015-2063. It's not just by accident. It's because we wanted to make sure that we align our industrialization strategy to African Union Agenda 2063. It is also important to understand that our member states, they belong to more than one configuration. Some of our members are part of East African Community as well. They are also members of the COMESA, recognizing that there are challenges when you belong to multiple membership. There are challenges in terms of overlapping obligations, but also in terms of maybe conflicts in terms of policies sometimes, not necessarily, but also it is a burden because you have to pay your annual contribution to multiple organizations. But more importantly is the overlaps in terms of obligation. I'll give you an example of a free trade area. In the free trade area, we have a harmonized regime as SADC, and we have a preferential treatment for our member state by elimination of tariffs. But our regime is not necessarily the same as COMESA's, and is not necessarily the same as the East African Community. So when it comes to offering or utilization of trade regime becomes very difficult. So we have recognized that, and that's I'm responding now to your question, how do we relate? We have it was agreed to establish a tripartite arrangement, and the tripartite arrangement encompasses 3 pillars. Is free trade, tripartite free trade, market integration rather, and the tripartite free trade area is part of the market integration pillar. But also the second pillar is infrastructure development. A tripartite infrastructure development program has been developed. And the third pillar is the industrialization. So we believe that in doing so, we'll be able to address a number of challenges but also will be able to utilize a more expanded market. Because if you have regional programs, for example, you're focusing on connectivity as SADC, you are just connecting your members. But if you broaden the scope and it is a tripartite, you are connecting your member not only with SADC member states, but beyond with other RECs member states as well. Industrialization again will be looking at that broad context, and in doing so, we believe that we'll be relating not only with the three RECs, but also with the other RECs within the continent, because our tripartite arrangement is, we believe that is a stepping stone towards the big continental integration.
Which is the vision.
Which is the vision.
The ultimate dream.
Yes, yes.
Do you think it can happen?
I believe it's not only that I believe, it is happening.
Okay.
We are seeing that it is happening, that we have agreed to establish a continental free trade area, however challenging it is going to be, but that commitment and the launch, it is really a true testimony that we are going to that direction, and the tripartite arrangement, we are far ahead, and under Agenda 2063, there are a number of continental integration programs which are going on. So it's not a dream. It's not that it's going to happen. It is happening.
It is happening.
Yeah.
That's inspirational,
Yeah.
and it's great to hear. Let's talk about how this powerful bloc affects free movement of people, residency in the different countries.
SADC, we are still at the stage of a free trade area, and we have remained there for a reason. One of the major reasons is the overlapping membership, and recognizing that our focus has been, first of all, to make sure that there is free movement of goods. Because if you want to benefit free trade area, you must make sure that you address all barriers to free movement of goods, and then to enable trade to take place. But that also goes hand in hand. I'm saying that we are still at the first stage of integration, but we have taken steps to make sure that some of the elements of the next stages of integration are taking place. One of them is the free movement of persons. We have already an instrument to facilitate that, but you'll agree with me that is not only unique to SADC. That has been a major difficult,
Huge stumbling block.
the major difficult endeavor for member states. And there are reasons. You see what is happening now. You have security threats. That is one of the reasons. But to me, that is not the major reason. The major reason is the needed infrastructure to make sure that when you allow free movement of people, you have a structure, an infrastructure, which will enable you to capture all the data you need for both socio-economic related reasons, but also for security related reasons. And that's where we need to focus and address that. Once that is addressed, I believe that already free movement of a person is going on, but will be maybe more comprehensive as we desire.
Okay. You've mentioned free movement of goods being one of the key focuses. So how is this bloc affecting businesses, the opportunities? Are you seeing movement forward? Are you seeing growth in terms of the various different economies, private sector in those economies as a result of SADC?
The free trade area has facilitated an integrated and enlarged market. You have a market of 575 million in terms of population, but a combined GDP of 277, about that billion US dollars. So that in itself is an opportunity which needs to be utilized. And if you look at in terms of trade data, you can see a trend of increased trend in terms of people partaking the opportunities of SADC. The only challenge which we have, we are trying to address, which we have, our member states have experienced, and again I relate that challenge to the major one of the major objectives of SADC is to promote sustainable and equitable development for our member states. Is the capacity, the diversity or the differences in capacity in terms of partaking or utilizing the opportunities. Yes, the market has expanded, We have tried as much as possible to make sure that we integrate our economies through connectivities, but competitiveness has remained a big challenge. But also the productive capacity is very diverse in our member state. That's why we came up with the industrialization strategy. Yes, are we all benefiting as member states? That has been the question. Are we equally, not equitably benefiting from a SADC integration agenda? Are we all capable of producing quality goods competitively and compete among ourselves? That has been a challenge. So yes, the opportunities are there, but the challenge is now to make sure that our member states equitably benefit from a SADC regional integration agenda.
Staying with that, there's a lot of talk across Africa now about countries leveraging their key advantages or their key strengths, taking away any inefficiencies, redundancies by allowing countries to grow certain specific sectors. Is this a discussion that you have within SADC?
It's not a discussion, but rather a decision. That is what exactly we are intending to realize through our industrialization strategy. The industrialization strategy is about enhancing competitiveness. As I said, it's about socio-economic and technological transformation. So you can see it's overloaded. It's a big agenda. So, and why that? Because we believe we can utilize our economies of scales together. We can pull resources together. And if you pull resources together, you are capable of achieving a lot, but also exactly what you have said, our comparative advantages, that how can you utilize our comparative advantage if we want to move as a block. Let us make sure that we utilize our comparative advantage. So the emphasis, among others, in the industrialization strategy is value addition, it's beneficiation, but more importantly, regional value chains. Because the regional value chains now will enable you to utilize your comparative advantage while also recognizing the importance of economies of scale. So that is that's what we are doing. But again, industrialization is not an easy agenda, because as a SADC Secretariat, we will make sure, and that's what we are doing, to make sure that the policies are harmonized. But a member state now must make sure that the implementation takes place at that level. And it's not only about governments and the private sector. Even the international cooperating partners are very critical, because everybody should rally behind that agenda and understand the dynamics, because you have infrastructure development as a requirement, you have ICT, you have skills development, you have, I have mentioned science and technology, research and development, you have as well resource mobilization. Financing is very critical.
Let's look at the tripartite free trade area now. What challenges does this present?
The only challenge which I'm seeing is it has taken so long, first of all, since we started discussing about tripartite. The decision was made in 2008, if you remember. That was in Munyonyo, Uganda. That's when the heads of states agreed to establish the tripartite. And we expected by now we would have started operationalizing the tripartite, not only to launch, to operationalize. But the challenge is the differences in terms of capacities at national level, because we have not finalized exchange offer. That is a major challenge which we must, and there's nothing we can do unless we finalize exchange offer of offers. When I'm referring to the exchange offer, it's not a mere submission of a piece of paper and you say these are the products. It should be an offer which goes beyond the products which are already zero rated.
So for purposes of our audience of fully understanding, what does that mean exactly?
The most important, apart from industrialization and infrastructure development programs, joint tripartite, is the tripartite free trade area itself. It means that you are agreeing to eliminate tariffs as member states offer the different configuration. The starting point is expected to be where we are now. That as SADC you have a trade regime, COMESA you have a trade regime, And the EAC, you have a trade regime under your free trade areas. Now you need to harmonize. But harmonization is one thing. You also need to be more ambitious by opening up your market. That is what I mean by elimination of tariff. You open up your market. So that is the challenge, because we have not fully reached a stage where we are agreeing as three RECs that this is what we want to do in terms of opening up our market.
You mentioned earlier in the interview that the private sector is key and should really drive the agenda, but without buy-in at government level and at senior leadership level, it cannot happen. You've mentioned the need for trust. There's a lot of fear. What if we are dwarfed by the bigger players? What would your appeal be to member states and to their leadership?
Regional integration is a key driver to economic development, and it can only happen, and you can only realize the benefit if you embrace the requirement of regional integration. One of them is opening up your market, and secondly is making sure that you put in place the enabling environment as government. But thirdly, the private sector should also understand that they are drivers and that they should take their rightful place. And the international cooperating partner, they should know that they have, actually I'm appealing, I'm not sure whether I should say I'm appealing, I'm just sensitizing them. They should also, they should understand that I have a role of driving regional integration. What do I mean? What do I mean is that they support both the secretariats and member states and the private sector. They can play a very important catalytic role by ensuring that the support they provide are interlinked. So you have national, private sector, regional linkages.
It's very easy to see, and you've highlighted the benefits economically. What's the benefit to government?
The challenge is maybe the capacity in terms of articulation, understanding what are the benefits of regional integration. But the other challenge is we need to prioritize and reprioritize. Is again, how have we prioritized regional integration? That is the challenge. Is it among our major priorities across the board? That is another challenge. The other thing is resources. Resources are scarce. But if you start by prioritizing and regional integration is a priority, you'll make sure that you're also allocating adequate resources to regional integration. Right. So that understanding and appreciation that regional integration is a driver, is an economic driver, is very, very critical.
When we look at the people, and of course Africa was a continent without the borders that were created, artificial borders that separate communities who speak similar languages. There are clear gains to integration for the people. But it seems like we've focused very heavily on the economic aspects of it. If you look at the social aspects, what would you highlight as key?
Job creation, that is both economically and social, because when you enhance trade, investment, opportunities are there. Obviously, you create a job. You'll be creating a job for the region, for the youth, for everyone. But also, we cooperate socially in sectors like education, in sectors like health. So in doing so, you are also providing opportunities in terms of access to education regionally, in terms of access to medical facilities regionally. What do I mean? If you harmonize your curricula, if you harmonize, you have mutual recognition of qualification, it means that the youth or the young generation can attend any school. And they will be able to get to be employed in any of the member states. That is one thing. But if you harmonize medical-related policies, strategies, and fertility, it means that you are enabling ease access and affordable medical facilities. So there are a number of social-related benefits which are there, and which are obtained through harmonization of policies and strategy.
Let's go to the challenges now, and I want to specifically look at social political challenges presented by instances such as the xenophobic attacks in South Africa. How do you overcome such challenges?
Let us ask ourselves why such incidences. there are root causes for such incidences, and it's about poverty. It's about fighting for limited opportunities. Yeah. So you find you're in a country, it's unfortunate that happened, but you're in a country where citizens in that country, they feel that my employment opportunity has been taken by a foreigner. That should not be happening, because what we need is to make sure that we address economic challenges, we address poverty reduction challenges, we eradicate poverty if it's possible, or we minimize poverty, and we create opportunities which will enable our youth, our citizens to get employed. That is the bottom line.
The very dynamic world that we live in, and so many challenges everywhere, Western states and in the East, right here in Africa. It's been a trying time for much of the world, and also there have been challenges here in Southern Africa as well. What are the greatest challenges and lessons you've learned over the past few years?
First and foremost is about prioritizing regional integration. Have we done so? The second challenge is, yes, we talk about private sector being the driver of regional integration. Are we doing much to facilitate private sector to take its rightful place in regional integration? That is a big challenge. The other challenge, resource to sustainably drive regional economic integration. You need resources to drive regional integration sustainably. That is a challenge which we are addressing now by looking into alternative sources of financing instead of just depending on member state contribution. But politically, solidarity is very key. It's not a challenge, but it's just to emphasize that solidarity is very key. If you move together and you're committed, you always be able to realize what you want. But if some of you are not fully convinced, then you may agree, and then when it comes to implementation, some of you will be lagging behind. And if some are lagging behind, it slows the process of regional integration, because decision must be made by consensus, and the implementation then follows by the different players, so that the pace of moving together at the same speed is very, very critical and one of the challenges.
You know, we've heard that you're optimistic, and we're coming to the close. This is my final question. We've heard that you're optimistic that the vision of a Pan-African agenda can be realized. The regional blocs are critical towards bringing this together and making it happen. Some regional blocs are not as far ahead as SADC in terms of what you've accomplished. What lessons would you share with our other regional blocs, and what's your vision? Let's say 10 years from now, what change do you expect to have seen?
First of all is to emphasize that regional integration is very, very key to economic development. And we should not, some of us should not continue taking it as a theory, as a concept, because sometimes you get that feeling that regional integration sometimes is taken as a concept, as a theory, that yes, regional integration, these are building bros to continental agenda, but in reality we need to drive that process and to walk the talk by implementing what we are saying. The other thing which I would like to emphasize is that regional integration is not an event, it's a process. And being a process, you have multiple stakeholders who are supposed to be part of that. And all the stakeholders, government, private sector, civil society, international cooperating partners, they should understand the roles, the different roles which they are expected to play to drive regional integration, and we move together. That is the lesson I have learned. We need really to move together, because even if one part moves, the other part is not moving, then the progress will always be slow. But sharing experience in SADC is that we are very happy, and I'm very, very, very delighted to lead a regional community which is solid in terms of commitment, solidarity, both economically but also politically. You have seen we are not unique. We are an organization which we are sometimes faced with political challenges, our member states, but SADC member states have always been there for each other. So that is maybe something which can also be appreciated by other regions to understand we are willing to share. What do we do in terms of making sure that that solidarity remains there? We are at point, you reach a point of say, you member state, you're misbehaving. Let us please step down. But that has never been an easy decision to be taken. SADC always avoids making a decision which will be excluding any member state. We try as much as possible to make sure that everybody is part of the community, and we move together, and as much as possible to enable any member states which is challenged to address the challenges which they are facing.
10 years from now, what do you think SADC and the African continent will have achieved?
10 years from now, I'm seeing the tripartite operational. I'm seeing the region connected, and now connected from South Africa. I'm taking it from a continental point of view.
To Cairo.
To Cairo. That is what I'm seeing 10 years from now. But also I'm seeing this challenge which has been there for quite some time, of not enabling full movement of people. I'm seeing that being addressed as well.
That would be an incredible thing. Dr. Tax, we wish you all the best in your work with SADC, and thank you so much for making time to speak with us.
Okay, thank you very much as well for visiting SADC.